and welcome to this beautiful story from the Bible. Today, we're going to take a journey to a wedding in a small town called Cana. This is where something amazing happens. Jesus performs his very first miracle, and it's all about turning water into wine. But why would he do that? And what does it mean for us today? Stay with us as we discover the answers and learn some important lessons along the way. Let's dive in. The story begins in Cana, a peaceful village in the region of Galilee. There was a wedding happening, a joyous occasion where two people were coming together to start a new life. In those times, weddings were big, happy celebrations that lasted for days. It was a time for friends, family, and the whole community to gather and celebrate. Now, imagine this. You're at a wedding. There's music, laughter, dancing, and everyone is having a great time. The food is delicious, the decorations are beautiful, and the wine is flowing. People are enjoying themselves, but suddenly a problem arises. You see, the wine starts to run out. And that's a big deal. In those days, running out of wine at a wedding would have been embarrassing for the host. It was considered a failure, and it might even have caused some shame. The guests were expecting to celebrate with plenty of wine, and now they were running out. This is where Mary, the mother of Jesus, she's at the wedding too, and she notices the problem right away. She understands the potential embarrassment this could cause for the family hosting the wedding. So, she goes to Jesus. Now remember, Jesus hadn't started his ministry yet. People didn't know him as the great teacher or miracle worker he would become. He was still living in Nazareth, growing up, learning, and working like any other young man. But Mary knew something special about her son. She had witnessed his life and had seen that he was different. So Mary approaches Jesus and says, "They have no more wine." This is a simple statement, but it's loaded with meaning. Mary isn't just pointing out the problem. She's asking Jesus to do something about it. Now you might wonder, why did Mary go to Jesus with this? After all, he wasn't known as a miracle worker yet. Well, it's because Mary trusted him. She had faith in him. Even though he hadn't performed any miracles yet, she knew that he had the power to make things right. And what does Jesus say? His response is a little surprising. He says, "Dear woman, why do you involve me? My time has not yet come." At first, it sounds like Jesus is saying he's not ready to help, right? But here's where we need to understand something important. Jesus is not being rude. In fact, his words show us that he is aware of the bigger picture. His mission on earth was about more than just solving problems for people. He had a purpose, a timing for everything, and this moment was part of that plan. But then, something incredible happens. Mary doesn't give up. Instead, she turns to the servants and says, "Do whatever he tells you." Mary has faith in Jesus. Even if his response seems uncertain, she knows that he can help. Jesus sees the 6 stone water jars standing nearby. These jars were used for ceremonial washing, to cleanse the hands and feet of the guests before meals. Each jar could hold about 20 to 30 gallons of water. Jesus looks at the jars and gives a simple command: fill the jars with water. Now the servants might have been confused. They were expecting Jesus to do something more dramatic, like snap his fingers or make a grand announcement. But instead, he asks them to fill the jars with water. So they do. They fill each jar to the brim. Then Jesus says, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." This is where the story gets truly amazing. The servants do as they are told. They take the water to the master of the banquet, the person responsible for overseeing the wedding feast. When he tastes it, he is shocked. The water has turned into wine, and not just any wine, the best wine he's ever tasted. He's surprised because usually at weddings, the best wine is served first, and when people have had enough to drink, the cheaper wine is brought out. But this wine was different. It was of the highest quality. The master of the banquet calls the bridegroom over and says, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink, but you have saved the best till now." This is a beautiful moment in the story, and there's so much we can learn from it. Jesus didn't just solve the problem of the missing wine. He went above and beyond. He didn't just provide any wine, he provided the best wine. This tells us something about Jesus. He doesn't just meet our needs. He goes above and beyond, giving us more than we could ever expect. or imagine. But this miracle is not just about wine. It's a sign. John, the writer of this story, tells us that what Jesus did in Cana was the first of his miraculous signs. It was a way to reveal his glory, to show the world that he was not just a man, but the Son of God. This was the beginning of his public ministry, and this miracle was the first glimpse of the power and love he would offer to the world. So, what can we take away from this story? First, let's think about Mary's role. She trusted Jesus, even when the situation seemed hopeless. She had faith that he could do something about it. And what happened? Jesus didn't disappoint her. He answered her in a way that was beyond her expectations. Second, we see that Jesus cares about the little things in our lives. The missing wine might seem like a small problem compared to the bigger issues people face, but Jesus still cared. He didn't ignore the situation because it wasn't important enough. He took action, and in doing so, he showed us that he cares about all of our needs, big and small. Finally, this story reminds us that Jesus works in his own timing. At first, he said, "My time has not yet come." But in the end, he performed a miracle. It teaches us that sometimes we may not understand why things happen the way they do, but God's timing is always perfect. So there you have it. Jesus' first miracle, turning water into wine at a wedding in Cana. It's a beautiful story of faith, trust, and the abundant love of Jesus. He showed us that he cares, he provides, and he works in ways that go beyond our expectations. The story of Cana reminds us that even when things seem uncertain or when we feel like we're running out of options, we can trust in Jesus. He is always ready to help and will often do so in ways we least expect. Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting and inspiring Bible stories. And remember, no matter what you're going through, you can always turn to Jesus, who can turn water into wine and turn your troubles into blessings.